Okay, so for those of you who don't know, me and Jacob traveled to New York City for his 15th episode celebration.
Yeah.
Something like that, because I remember when he started the podcast, we'd been talking about it for a long time before he started it, and he told me like when his kind of like goal was to get to New York and film a bunch of bigger people in New York, and he kind of made a goal for himself. If he gets to 15 episodes, then he'll pay what it takes to get there and kind of follow that dream that he wanted to do. So he did it. He followed through with it. I joined him on the trip. So we did 10 podcasts in 5 days, and I got to listen to you for such like a short period of time, and I truly got to see the progression that we were talking about. Like, it was crazy. Like doing two in a day, you could kind of like, you really got kind of get used to it. But then I guess like not even realizing it, I would hear it and I'd be like, oh my God, like you're getting good. Like boom, boom, boom. You're not stuttering. You're very clear. Your questions are phenomenal. You're catching them off guard. Like you're really crushing it. So talk about that trip to New York and like what it meant to you.
New York was so cool.
Yeah.
It was like...
And how good your travel buddy was.
Travel buddy was awesome. So clutch. You're running the camera, doing the angles. It was great.
Yeah, I did my part.
But New York was awesome. Like, I don't think it could have gone any better.
Yeah.
Like, because it could have, like, we were talking, like, it could have been as good as it was, or it could have been really, really bad.
For sure, because we just messaged people over DM and tried to set up these meetings in New York City. And then when we show up there, like, what are the odds that these people are going to follow through, you know, with hundreds of thousands of followers and all this, you know? So yeah, that was definitely the risk.
Yeah, but it was just, like, looking back on it now, like, it's crazy. Like, it was maybe 6 months ago now. And
Yeah,
it feels,
February,
yeah, it feels like it's been way longer. Like, it feels like we haven't been there forever. And, like,
yeah. But
just, like, back, like, it just, in terms of what it meant to me, like, just kind of a culmination of why I did it, right? Like, at the time, I was... Like I set, once I hit 15, I told myself I could go. By the time we got there, I'd recorded 21. But it was just kind of like the...
Animal.
It's just like the culmination of like everything that the podcast was. Like the podcast wasn't huge at the time, still isn't. But like one thing I always tell people is it's the people I get to meet from the podcast and all these connections I'm making is equally as valuable as the downloads.
100%.
Obviously the downloads are great, but like because of the podcast, it was like validating everything I was doing. Like because of the podcast, we got to meet 10 cool people. We got inside VaynerMedia. We got inside Gary's office. I tried burritos for the first time.
Yeah, 3 times in a row.
3 times. So good. But yeah, it was just kind of like validating everything I was working towards and like really proving that like this is something that could become something.
Yeah.
I think like it was just cool to be able to just everything that we were able to accomplish in 5 days, just if I could do that over the course of a couple of years, like how far could this go?
100%. And so out of all those moments, like without thinking about it too long, like what's the first few that come to mind that are just standout moments, favorite moments, things that you'll like never forget?
Obviously the 2 VaynerMedia ones come to mind. The one where first it was just getting into Vayner with Caleb was really cool.
Yeah.
But the one that sticks me more so from Caleb is after the interview when we were, you know, exactly what I'm talking about. We come down the elevator with Caleb and he says, "Hey guys, thank you. I really appreciate it."
Yeah.
Like, speaks a lot to me. Like, I can't believe you reached out to me. This is super cool. And we walked away and he called back and he was like, "No guys, like I'm serious." Like, and he like put his hands together like a prayer and he's like, "Thank you."
Wow, that's crazy that you remember that.
Yeah.
That's how you know like it was a truly like a moment that you'll never forget. If you can reenact what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like,
and I was like, that's just like, that's crazy. Like, this is such a big deal for me that you were willing to take 30 minutes out of your day to do an interview with me.
Yeah.
Like that was so cool. And for him to think it was equally as like a big deal that we were willing to talk to him was crazy. And there was also just actually another one too, was Caleb. We were talking about people that were like, "How did you know that?" It was like literally because I knew, because Caleb, I had all this research, but then at the day of, he's like, "I only have half an hour now," like, because he got tickets to a Knicks game. And so as I was transitioning, I was like, we're just going to skip over, like, and I name dropped his company that he had right when he started doing video. And his face was just like, whoo, like, shit, like, oh, okay, like, you actually know what you're talking about. But so that one stands out. Obviously, Brandon Hatcher, just that whole day is going to stand out to me. We get there, 45-minute tour of the whole office. He takes us around.
VaynerMedia,
Then we go into the boardroom, hour and 45-minute podcast. Then we probably talked for another hour, just the 3 of us just shooting the shit after that podcast. Yeah. And then I was leaving, he's like, "Do you guys want to go into Gary's office?" Obviously. And then we go, he shows us this cool poster that his girlfriend bought him. And then we went into Gary's office, got some photos.
Crazy. That moment for me personally was just so surreal that I don't even really remember it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being in there and the whole time just thinking, remember this, because it's like you're only here for a couple minutes and like this is a huge thing for me because you know how much I love Gary. And looking back, I can't even really remember it because I was just in shock that it was real life.
Yeah, now that photo, I always show people that whenever I find someone's like Gary, I'm like, I have to show you a photo. It's gonna blow your mind. Yeah. And I'll show them, but like I'll watch his stuff now, and I'll be like watching a Daily Vee or something, and then halfway through, I'll be like, oh yeah, I sat right
in that
there.
chair. And there's Gary. There's Tony Robbins or something. And you'll be like, man, I was right there. Like,
so that was really cool.